Welcome, everyone. It doesn't really need an introduction. Um, it's our own Maureen Muldoon, but I just want to share a little bit. I've known Maureen since about 2009, and our lives have traversed in and out and been woven together in a really beautiful way. And I never cease to be amazed at the creative power of this woman. She really is a creative dynamo. And just to give you an example, this week alone, she did her one woman show, Transparent Love, on Tuesday night. And then Saturday morning, she was featured in the premiere of a movie called Showing Up, which is about people that are not hiding. They are showing up fully in their life and the transformation they had to go through to do that. It was so inspirational. And then that evening, she went to a gala where she did the video for this wellness house that cares for families and people going through the experience of cancer. And, this is just 1 week. In addition to doing the talk today, having 4 children and a family, doing the daily Course in Miracles calls, and all the other creative projects that she's engaged in. So this just gives you an idea of how I'm constantly being wowed by our own Maureen Muldoon. So without further ado, here she is, our creatrix.
Thank you, Bella. You spot it, you got it. And yeah, last night I was down at the wellness house and I was directing their mission moment. And but here's the full truth is this morning I slept through 2 phone calls. So there's an ebb with the flow. And that's
For one day.
right. Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today is unharnessing love. But in that unharnessed love, honoring the love and the law. So I found myself putting on this spider necklace that I made a couple years ago when I found this cool spider. And I love this spider. And it reminded me also when I was putting it on, I was listening to one of Nat's songs that she was singing earlier about giving your love away and sort of trusting. And that's what the spider is for me. She does what she loves. She gives it all away, knowing her good is at hand. She plays her part in unharnessed love, creating this magnificent piece of artwork. And then she rests in it, and she rests in the law that she will be compensated. But do we? Do we trust in that law? And in the spider web, there is actually even more law. It's embedded in the spider web. You see sacred geometry in the spider web, in the lines and the designs. And she's this powerful totem. She's been a powerful totem for me. She teaches me that, when I play my part, when we play our part in love, we will receive an echo. She wanted to be present here today. So that's that. And I think it's probably, on the cusp of Halloween, we're going to see more spiders, and it might remind you of this idea of reciprocity. So there's this Irish word. I'm studying Irish, and this word is bog, which means soft. And it makes it easy for us to remember because a bog is soft. And a bog is characterized as like a spongy, soft, soil that's covered in this thick moss. And if you've ever had the pleasure of walking barefoot in soft moss, it's like nature's memory foam, and the experience is extravagant. You're like, oh, it feels really good. The practice of being soft, of being patient, of being gentle is a really good thing. Things unfold and unfurl in the soft environment, like the cushy, warm embrace of the grandmother. Softness can help us to feel really safe. And our softer side can also be fluid and frivolous and footloose and fancy free. So along with this softness, it's important for us to balance, to cultivate rigidity, but not at the cost of softness, but along with softness, like a little salt on the caramel goes a long way. Some fear softness. It makes us feel uncomfortable for those of us who live in a little bit more rigidity. And some of us fear rigidity, makes us feel uncomfortable for those who want to be completely footloose and fancy free. So we want to entertain them both. And the idea is like, where is this softness alive in you? Do you welcome this fluidity, this patience, this gentleness towards yourself, towards others, this curious bog wanderer? Where do you let her in? And with whom do you share her elixir of softness? And think of this energy as dancing in the bog. Where are you dancing in softness? And where do you not invite in this softness? Who do you withhold the softness from? There are very, very few places that I withhold softness. I'm a bog dancer for sure. I like things to be footloose and fancy free. But when it comes to my kids, they're going to sing a different song. You know, I'm like, get up, turn off the TV. I get very rigid, and I come into the room sometimes barking corrections instead of connections. And this is where I can withhold some of that softness, which is interesting that I would do that with my kids, but I'm just being completely transparent with you. The flip side of softness is if softness is like the bog, then rigidity is like an arrow. And even in our sex, we see this dichotomy. The wet, warm bog is the feminine sex, and the angles, the architect, the archer shooting arrows is the masculine. But both of these archetypes live within each of us, and we get to make peace with both of those aspects of our being. The Irish word for arrow is pronounced said, and the arrow is rigid. These are the words that you said, or the concepts that you seed into the fertile ear of creation. If the bog is soft, and fluid, the arrow is the word, it's the structure, it's the staccato, it's the honoring of time and rules and regulations and agreements. The love of the great grandmother's warm embrace, is met with the law of the grandfather's firm handshake, right? It lets us know about being people of our word when you give your firm handshake. And as the grandmother embraces us and facilitates this place of safety, this clear container of the grandfather's handshake also instills a sense of safety. You ever get a strong handshake and you're a person of your word and you're agreeing on something, and there is established in that moment this security, this bond, this agreement, this sense of safety that we're both going to live up to our part. So where do you take hold of the firm handshake of rigidity, of organization, of systems, and of structures? This week in A Course in Abundance, this is one of the classes that we teach here at SpeakEasy. We are discussing this idea of heart and habit. And heart and habit are the energies of fluidity and integrity, love and law, grace and guillotine, meditation and intention. Meditation is where you go soft, where you release all of your wants, your desires, your dreams. You just let all of it, you just let go of it and just rest in the soft bog of love and meditation. And intention is where you pull an arrow from your desire pouch and you place it in your bow and you draw back, you pull back the tension, you take aim, you release it with clear intention to meet a mark. This is part of your holiness. This is part of your hot and holiness, your footloose, fancy-free, unharnessed, unplanned, unconventional, unconditional ways are met up with this archer, this guillotine, this idea of amputating what is not a full-bodied yes for you. That is not a bad thing or an unholy thing. That is a very holy thing. These two seeming opposing energies bring us into balance, into vitality, into wellness, into happiness. When your consciousness is anchored in your heart and then directed by your habits, you will experience true liberation, holiness, and unharnessed, impeccable love. So anchored in your heart and then facilitated, directed by your habits. This is the time for daydreaming and direct doing. Too much daydreaming and dancing in the bog, and we will not reach our full potential, our full helpfulness. And too much law, too much rigidity, and you will get bitter and brittle. But when your consciousness is on point, it's informed by both grace and guillotine, both heart and habit. Habit is like this merging of honesty and follow through, the conviction of the grandfather's handshake. Your habits show you what you have committed to. And you can simply look around your life, and your life is a culmination of that which you have invested, the thoughts, the ideas, the agreements that you gave and that you honor with your breath and with your ways, your home, your car, your body, your bank account, your relationships, and the way that they are that way because of habit. But your habits are based on your belief. And your beliefs are questionable. You could question and change your belief. So, some beliefs that end up with a shoddy outcome are like, my actions don't matter. I'll never be in shape, or my people don't have savings accounts, or I will never own my own house, and so on. These are beliefs that will bring you to limited locations. Conversely, you could change your beliefs. You could work with the law. You could I look at my finances. I play within the container of my paycheck. I don't live beyond my means. I'm okay with working with the law of that truth. Or in regards to my health, like I get sleep I need. I take responsibility for caring for my container. There was a time when I was living totally in the bog around my habits with money and with health. Like I was just like way out in the bog. And I would have a large Starbucks vanilla latte almost every single day. And this habit, first of all, I don't want you to think I had the money to buy a large Starbucks every day. I would put it on my credit card. That's always wise. And I would get it. And this habit, it would cost me like $9 every time I went into a Starbucks, because you can't just have a large latte. You got to have a scone to go with it. Everybody knows that. And so my grandmother, love, was like live, large, and in charge. I was all about the softness and just the sweetness and just like unharnessed, unconscious love. And this habit cost my wallet around $2,000 a year if I added it all up, not to mention what it did to my scale. So you see, working with the law consciously, it actually all matters. Law is the form that we, sometimes daydreamers, don't want to recognize, but the form doesn't lie. Form follows consciousness. Some people have a great archer energy. They're great guillotines. They set their eye on the prize. They walk to it with clear intention, unapologetically saying like no to what is not true for them and what they're not in alignment with their dreams or the desires. And the outcome is that they, that they're committed to carrying something into form. They know that if they implement a little structure into the life, like they're going to come out with the outcome. If you know that you want to meet a significant other or a lover, you actually have to do something. You have to put down the remote, get out of your pajamas, get off the couch, maybe sign up for a dating app, or let the world know in some way that you are actively playing your part in using the law of meeting someone. And each thing that you desire, be it a man or a woman or whatever, a career, every single thing that you desire holds within it 1,000 recipes to get there. It comes with it 1,000 recipes, but you can just, read the recipe, or you can actually get into the kitchen and start taking out the pots and pans and start cooking something up. You have to add some fire to your daydreams. And here's the other truth. You don't actually have to follow a recipe. You can be guided to know your next right steps, but you do have to take those steps to show up, to show the divine that you are actually in the game. So setting and honoring intentions, speaking your words that you want to actually manifest are showing that you're in the game. But you don't have to be fully militant about it, because if you are, it will actually not turn into a game. You will lose all the game aspect of this whole idea. Making it too rigid will make it feel like work. So we get to like kind of dance with these two ideas. We get to allow ourselves to be guided when to add the music and when to add the math. So think of these as two sisters, you know, as your breath, the soft inhale, the receptivity, the taking in the clear arrows that go out. And in all encounters, ask, like, where am I holding a soft spot for my desires and a clear plan for my destiny? Where am I holding a soft spot for my desires as well as a clear plan for my destiny? If you live in less law and more fluidity, then law would be a really great thing for you to implement. I'm someone who likes to fly by the seat of my pants, so I have to commit to checking calendars, paying attention to the clock, to keeping, you know, my checkbook balance. This is kind of work for me, but because it doesn't come naturally for me, but it actually really has changed my entire life. So you too could probably self-identify yourself if you're more law or love. And if you kind of know which one you favor, law or love, maybe just for shits and giggles, type it in the chat so we can kind of see the makeup of our community. Are you more law? Does that make you feel comfortable? Or more love? Does that make you feel more comfortable? To invite in more fluidity, you'll need to release rigidity. Take a different way to work, you know, brush your teeth with the opposite hand, go to a new restaurant, order something you've never had, question where you have knee-jerk reactions like, no, I could never do that. And maybe add more maybes to your vocabulary, maybe more curiosity to your conversations. Instead of saying, no, that can't work, instead say, maybe I'm interested, I'm curious to seeing how that might work. I was once walking home from dropping my kids off from school in California. And this really sweet neighbor woman who I was actually friends with invited me in for a cup of tea. And immediately I said, no, I have no idea why that came so immediately. And I began to rationalize my answer. You know, I got to get home. I got things to do. But here's the thing, like, I've always been an independent contractor. Like, I make my own hours. Like, I could definitely have a cup of tea with a neighbor. But I had that rigid no. And did I have the time to sit in the bog with a friend? Yeah, I actually did. Here's where it gets kind of interesting. These energies can be very subtle and unconscious. So when she invited me in for tea, that was also during my large Starbucks coffee and scone phase, okay? So although I thought that these habits of buying my own coffee and being, you know, getting my own good was my fluidity, it was actually my rigidity, because I wanted what I wanted when I wanted, and I was willing to pay money I didn't have to get it. And I didn't really want to receive and be reciprocal in receiving something that was being offered to me. So I think that's interesting to contemplate, because you might think that you're one way, but you're actually presenting another way. So readjusting my thinking around my response was sort of like an interesting shift for me. So I invite you to continue to maybe burn the fields on what you think you know about yourself. Because like that soft invitation of tea that I almost negated, these unconscious guillotines can sometimes cut us out of some very beautiful adventures. So today, when I was talking to Beth earlier, when we were talking about the SpeakEasy budget, and she told me, you know, I know how to share a clear idea. Like, she's a great host, you know what I mean? She's like, I know how to, you know, get people to make a decision on a restaurant. I know how to share a clear idea, you know, without adding too much poetry to it, so it doesn't make it unclear. And I said, yeah, you are really good at that. But you know what? Like, throwing on a little poetry is not bad, you know? And she's like, yeah, like, I guess you could say, like, you could add a ribbon to the arrow, a little sparkle, a little sprinkle of poetry. And I said, yeah, you exactly add a ribbon to your arrow. But in regards to like finances, like if we were all ribbon, we would have a ribbon dance. That's not helpful in regards to finances. You know what I mean? We have to like dance with the tools that'll get us to hit the mark. So we do have a mark to hit, and we will meet that mark in love. No doubt about it. I know this with every cell of my body, every fiber of my being. I can stand on the cusp of this knowing with full conviction because I know that as a community and as individuals in this community, we are web weavers. We are guaranteed an echo to our good. And we have and do begin to ask with God, like, what would you have us do? And what is the purpose of it? And I invite you to ask that in all of your exchanges and endeavors as well. What would you have me do? And what is the purpose of it? There are 1,000 agreements that we all make every single day, every week, each year that builds the scaffolding of our integrity. And if you take a curious and conscious look at these agreements with spirit, you may find that you're doing things out of loyalty, out of habit, that are not really working anymore, like I did with that Starbucks coffee shit. Sorry about that curse word. Sometimes they just fly out. Anyway, there was a better idea there that I was ready to step into, that I could be more reciprocal, like a kind cup of tea with a friend. So we get to think about and be about these clear directions with the divine. We follow the graceful guidance of God, and that will lead us to integrous habits, grounding rituals, and soulful and steadfast choreographies that lead us to a life that is clear and focused in unharnessed love. And you will find that if you desire to be in love with someone, you'll start watching your feet, walking in that direction. If you desire to be a writer, you will be guided to teachers' practices, rituals, recipes, and way showers that will support your arrow in hitting that mark. If you have a vision to be healthier, you will be guided to move your body, to eat well, to get some sleep. If you want to be free of debt, you will be guided to find those directions and supports to develop habits to help paying off debt and stepping into integrity. This is the math, the map, the mindset of living in harmony with love and law, inspiration and intellect. They work together. And we see integrity and intellect in the bones of our body. And the fluidity is represented in the circulation and the digestion and the elimination. So for vital healthy bodies, we have both of those things. We also see it in our finances. We have the integrity of checks and balances, and then fluidity of staying in the flow, of tithing to where we're spiritually fed. So no matter how much or how little you have, your affluence is based on the ease with which you allow yourself to flow and the effort that you give to your intentional guidance of habits, intentions and meditations, keeping fluid, keeping focused, keeping fluid, keeping focused. That's how the bird flies. And when we do this, miracles unfold, because there is a power, and this is the good part, that we call God, Goddess, Divine Mother, that is so invested in us reaching that mark of full peace and full potential, to seek first this love and this law, to set yourself aside and listen to these directions, and do not be afraid of being wrong or uncomfortable, to get out of the way and to get out of the way and then to get out of the way again. And when we set out to hit our mark, we lean from the place of doing, like, I got to do this. I'm going to hit the mark. But consider this, that if everything is seeking and surrendering into the highest potential, into its highest potential, then the mark also has a highest potential, which is to attract your arrow. That is, after all, the highest harmonious potential of a bullseye. All things want to play in harmony with all things. Could it be possible that the outcome that we're attached to is also attached to us? Can you imagine that your dreams, your desires need you? You have all you need to succeed, and that your success is actually a demonstration of faith in a very benevolent God. Now, I know that I told you earlier in this talk that love and law are two sides of the same coin, and they are, but one will take the lead. And you want to have balance in both, but at this stage of the game, you want love to take the lead. In the old paradigm, law led. We were all attempting to climb the ladder, to get the Starbucks, to check off the boxes, to set the goals, to get on to our agendas, and to show up on time or early. And this structure was designed to hold the love. The container was holding the love and holding it like a chalice. But in this new paradigm, and especially in communities where we are honoring the Divine Mother, we are stepping into the consciousness of love taking the lead and love holding the law. Everything is everything and everything is love. You've heard me say this. Everything is everything and everything is love. There's no exceptions, no conditions, no need to fear or judge, because it's all love. It is all for you. You are deserving of a great, extravagant, extraordinary love just because of who you are and whose you are. You stand at this banquet, we all do, of love, surrounded by 100,000 streams of love pouring forth for all of us. And the problem is we don't think we deserve it, because we know that if we deserve this love, after all, we have done or not done, then everyone probably deserves this love. And if that's true, then maybe it's not so special. And we really want to be special and make others not special. So we want our team to win and we want other teams not to win. So all of that needs to go out with the old paradigm. There is no competition. There is no limit. And we are ushering in this new idea and laying waste to the old teeny mad idea of separations and problems. And we begin to heal the fears of our own brilliance. And we allow ourselves to no longer hide, as Bella was saying before, and step into that brilliance, like the spider steps onto the web and allows herself to be seen. So the illusions of problems is one of those things that needs to be put to rest. It's simply not true. And we could choose to let love lead today and do what love would have us do. Love is light, it's life, it's laughter. Love is unrestricted energy that flows without conditions or limitations. It is your life force. It is meant to flow. It is current. Its characteristics are fluid. It moves. It needs to be extended and experienced and sung and danced, which is how we make love to each other. It's nature. It's natural. We join together. It's helpful. And when you're in love, you can relax into that open and generous space. You don't need to have a container. So the ideas that come to you don't have to be pressed with your fingerprints even. They just flow from you. As Nate was saying, like, let it all go. It will return to you. You are a child of a benevolent God that sees you and echoes to you. And so my invitation for you today is to lean into that softness, to shoot your arrow into the impossible, to allow love to carry those arrows to their most optimal mark. God has no investment in your failure. Listen to the music and the muse and dance with the maps and the math and sing your songs and spin your webs and let the echo of love return and lay open to that echo and let yourself be knowing that what it feels like to fully live in balance with a very safe and impeccable and extravagant God. And that's the word.
Ooh, I have no words. Thank you, Bog Dancer. I just kept having these images of dancing in a bog and just enjoying that softness, and then like almost like being an sharpshooter in archery, like bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. And just, these two very different energies flowing like an infinity sign back and forth with each other. And I just kept getting the image of the infinite nature of God with that. And we're going to talk a lot more about all of this. Bring your questions and join the conversation. But before we do that, I'm going to pass it over to Mari.
Good day again. Yes, SpeakEasy is a non-for-profit spiritual community, and we exist on the generosity of our community members and guests. We thank you for playing your part and for taking the opportunity to make a donation for today's daily bread. Your generous donations help us to bring spiritual leaders, artists such as Nat, and speakers to Sunday service and keep important conversations going. If you were spiritually fed by today's message, wonderful message from Maureen, I invite you to go within and see what is yours to share. No gift is too small. The donation link is going to be set on the chat. You can also find it on our website. If you don't get to it right now, you can go to our website, speakeasyspiritualcommunity.com. If you're here in the US, then you can also give via text. All you have to do is grab your smartphone, hit text, and text the word give, Give, to the number 312-313-9772. And that way you just follow the prompts and you can give that way. In our website, there are different spots where you can find that donation link. There's one on the homepage, and also on the top bar, you will see a word that says donate. Just click that and just follow the prompts. We really appreciate your support so we can continue these conversations. Thank you. And I pass it to you, Beth.
Thank you. I'm so excited to have this conversation because now it is time for the truly unique experience of SpeakEasy, which is our community conversation. So this is where you, everyone that's here today, get invited to speak easily, to find your voice, your truth, share whatever thoughts or inspiration or awarenesses came up for you in that talk, and ask your questions. And we get to do this in community. And if you feel called to share a question or a comment, raise your virtual hand, please. And it's located in the reactions tab at the bottom of your screen. And also note to leave your video on when you raise your hand. So I'll get this started. I just had this image of like dancing in a bog and then picking up the archer's bow and shooting arrows, and how that precision of holding your frame and that rigidity, so to speak. And then going back and dancing in the bog and shooting some more arrows. And
Yeah. And I do feel like in the past, we have been leaning into this kind of metrics of masculinity. And I do feel like it is going to be the same kind of shift I went through in regards to like, no, I'm going to buy my Starbucks, to, no, I could have a cup of coffee with a friend. And, you know, that same kind of shift of like softness and inviting in that softness to lead, which is going to feel very threatening. So I, you know, I know we talk about that at the board, and we talked about that with Regina, and I know that we want to be about that at SpeakEasy. And I think it's just an interesting concept to stay awake to. Like, how do we not be threatened by that?
well, I loved, you know, the math and the music, connection, correction, the habit and heart. Like I love like listening to all of the
Grace and guillotine.
grace and guillotine. Yeah, I was like, what was the other one? I see the guillotine. What was, I'm looking at my notes going, what was that
Meditation
one?
or intention. And there was a time when I used to think like we should not have intentions. We should not be intentional. We should not have vision boards. Like there was a time when I really thought like, just go to meditation and you will be guided to know exactly where to go, what to do, and what to say. And, you know, and yet I do have many friends who have had so much, whose dreams have taken form that were very worthy, beautiful, and good dreams by using a set of intentions. And so I don't want to, you know, I think because I'm so into the bog that I negate the law. And I don't want to do that, you know, for me personally. You
Yeah.
know, I want to embrace both of these tools that can help us live in harmony with everything.
Well, I think that softness of bog can take those intentions, and instead of like, I'm going to do it and make myself miserable while I'm doing it, you know, you can bring peace and gentleness and softness right into those intentions, you know, those ribbons on those arrows.
Yeah, the bog is really fertile.
Yeah.
Press it
Yeah.
into the bog, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Make it a much more graceful and joyful experience.
Mm-hmm.
I went for a walk with a friend in the forest preserve, and the ground was a little bit soft because of the rain. And we actually did dance in the forest preserve.
Maureen, this has blew me away. This is your bog, your spider energy. All of it never gets old because learning takes time.
Yes. Yes.
And we're obsessed with this, instant everything, right? Even the Starbucks kind of story was kind of like that. I want it now. I'm going to put on a credit card. I'll pay for it later. Like everything. But what I heard, what pulled me into the bog was how powerful connection is, and it's really the most powerful form, I think, of influence that we have. And control's an illusion is what I'm hearing. Control's an illusion. Connection is the influence here. And tell me, I don't know how you connected bogs and spiders and Starbucks, but it's what you do. So
Yes, connection is vital, and it's the connection between you and your divine, the consistency, because that's the law. Like what is in my mind comes out of my mouth hole, lives in my heart, and is fired up in my gut. So this is the consistency of that law, and this is the consistency of now I'm connecting with my wingmen, with my mentors, with my mentees. Like I'm staying connected in that conversation that, if I'm a singer, I'm going to turn up a community, a conversation, connections around that. If I am looking to improve my health, I'm going, that's where this magic is going to take place. But it's got to come first from here. This is the first thing. This is the second thing. You can't go here if you're not here, because if you go here first, you're an unhealed healer.
Right. So this arrow that hit you to be in this showing up video as a practitioner, sharing your journey and just really how you just listened. You slowed down and you listened, and that to me is where the connection happens. And I was just wondering if that's what if I'm hearing that right.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The world is going to knock 1,000 times at your door, and you're going to refuse 999 of those knocks. It's going to come to you with a cup of coffees. It's going to come to you with like, hey, you want to be in a movie? And when I saw it was, I remember Nancy just posted it on Facebook. Do you know anybody who went through sort of a life-changing event? And I was like, well, I definitely went through a life-changing event. Maybe somebody will throw my name in the hat. No, that's not going to work. You have to advocate for yourself. You have to be willing to say, hey, I did that. Like maybe my story's worthy to be shared. I don't know. And if it's not, that's fine. But I'm not going to be the one who's going to wait for somebody else to hold the door open for me if this is part of my destiny. So that's action, that's fire, that's intention, that's that's action. I remember working with this woman back in New York, and she was like, I really want to meet a guy. I'm like, you got to get out of your freaking pajamas, ma'am. Nobody's going to knock on your door with you sitting in your pajamas in front of the TV. You know what I mean? And like, for some weird reason, that was like a revelation for her. I was like, you want to seem obvious, man? Like, I've never seen a man walk through the door and say like, hey, want to go on a date? Like, there's no recipe that ever happened. So you kind of have to like live and lean from the cusp of your fear.
Thank you for that. And thank you for just the expansiveness of it all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for coming out, for showing up and being so awesome. Thank you.
Hey, Amber.
Good morning. I want to first just comment on, if it's okay, what we talked about last week in regards to creation and artistic expression. So it had been about a year, and I went back to the dance ciphers, the dance exchange of energy last Sunday. and there were times where I felt so out of place before, and I felt so like I'm not, I don't belong here. You know, I'm too old. I'm too this or whatever. And going, I can't tell you just like the epiphany that I had, and I just felt so comfortable, and I just because I just opened up and I allowed everything to happen. So thank you for that. And it was beautiful and a wonderful experience for me going forward. And I'm so excited to go back tonight. But regards to today, I had pulled an oracle card before this for myself, and it said eternal love. And I'm very, very happy being single, and I'm not like looking for anybody. So my initial thought was, maybe this is something more. Maybe this doesn't have something to do with like romantic love. And I thought, maybe it has something to do with like connection with family and friends, and the little note that comes with it had said something like, just this balance of like this masculine or feminine energy, and coming together and creating this additional expression of love in whatever form. And then you started talking this morning, and I was like, oh, of course, like it just makes so much sense that I do need to focus on those habits that aren't serving me anymore. And I just want to say thank you for sharing that. And it's definitely something I felt like I needed to hear today. So thank you.
Thank you, Amber. Glad you're back. And thanks for the happy update. That's so great. You had us talking for a while after last Sunday, and how brave and beautiful your share was. Yeah. And here's the thing, like around like shifting habits, they're habits. They've been ingrained for a long time. They're knee jerk. Shifting, turning that is going to feel like turning the Titanic sometimes. So like, be gentle with yourself. They say progress, not perfection. They say progress, not perfection, but I say progress is perfection, and progress can be an inch, so every inch, every encounter that you decide for your optimal idea, don't give up in the right now, what you want in the long term, advocate for yourself in regards to all of your endeavors and your desires. And each time that you do that is a win. And it's going to take time to rewire sometimes, but don't fall back into, the Grand Canyon of old habits. But, because
it's the Grand Canyon. I like that.
No, it does feel like it's just like knee jerk. And you're like, this is just who I am. This is just who I'll always be. That's just not fair to yourself.
Right. Absolutely. I agree. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah, in that same vein, I always like to think of inch by inch, life's a cinch, but yard by yard, life is really hard. So just every little bit makes a difference. We have Regina Vertico here.
The queen. The queen has arrived.
That's what my grandma used to say to me.
Oh, we're channeling
Who
your
was
grandma.
also Regina. This has brought a lot of bubbling up. First, what you both just said about the, that taking the inch, progress is perfection. There was something that I heard at a talk years ago, and I heard the talk again, and he said the same thing, and it just like, it was kind of a game-changing kind of thought. And it was that it takes a 4-inch shift, and you may have heard me say this before, a 4-inch shift at the bottom of the ocean to create a tsunami on top. And we think about like 4 inches, and we're talking about like little inches inside of ourselves. The work that we're doing and the inches that we're making in our progress are creating an external new experience, whether it's through fear or love, that's where we get to do the work and check in, but it's still creating tsunamis of change in our external world. And I love that. And recently I saw also this message. It was somebody was, working through depression or whatever he was doing. And he just said, I'm 1% better every day. And again, it was like, like resonance of the simplicity of the, paying attention and just taking those little inch by inch movements towards love, letting love move through you.
Yes.
And so that's the first thing. And then the second thing, when you were talking about this idea of vision boards, and, there's all these different ways for creation. And then I also heard you say the part about, just doing the meditation, and, it could come to form. And I know I'm paraphrasing that. It might not been the exact, but what bubbled up in me when you were talking about that is essence versus intention. And there is a feeling, and this is what's true for me, is that there's a feeling within me. And rather than becoming attached to the form, because the feeling is everywhere, it's everywhere, it's expansive. Like if I get attached to one idea around how it's going to look, and that's the way I'm going to feel when it shows up in this specific form, I'm limiting the nature of God, who's like, hey, I've got an unlimited source of that feeling and that essence for you, and it can show up in 1,000 different ways. And I did that with, when I was transitioning from a car. I used it on a car. It was like time for a new car, and I was really attached to a brand. And every time I went to get it, it was like, and oh no, this is not it. And so I came home and I finally wrote it down. I'm like, this car feels like X, Y, and Z. And I said, and then I wrote down in another color all the ways that I was, something was cutting me off from that true source of love, who was like, no, it feels like this, and this is your God-given right to have this. And then, hours later, I was given a car that was the essence of what I was feeling. I was going to be driving to see my mother, and eventually it became my car. So I'm just sharing that because it is the within, everything is within. And the 4-inch little shifts that we're making, the inch little shifts, create the external experience of it. That's
Yes. And, Kate was saying, we need to connect with the feeling tone, just like what you're saying, Regina. We need to connect with the feeling, not the specific ideas of what it looks like. And here's the thing, even in that is math, like Nate Stone, when she sings, is not going to be thinking about the chords and the notes. She's going to be leaning into the essence of the song. But it rests on the knowing, the conscious knowing of the math. And we can't negate the conscious knowing of the math. That is not ours to figure out, that is already embedded in the music. The conscious math is embedded in the spider web. She's probably not thinking about creating a spider web. She's creating art. And these are like the tools and the structure and the systems that are our friends, that are there to be used. They're like tools to play with. And we don't have to fear them. And we don't even have to fear specificity. Like we don't even have to fear specificity. If you were to get specific with your car, you don't have to fear that, because there is a God that is so benevolent. That's like, yeah, that's sweet. And I'm going to bring you something that is optimal. So even you can't hold back the ocean if you get too specific.
Yes.
I love that. And as you were speaking, Regina, I just kept hearing that there was so much gentleness in the intentions. And so the intentions being the arrows and the gentleness being the soft bog.
Yeah. You're really good at that, Regina. I was once driving with her and she's like, I wish I had an apple. And I'm like, I have an apple. I have an apple in my bag. I've seen her manifest things out of the blue. It's really cool. I wish I had a car. Oh, here's a car.
Oh, here you go. Here's my car. Baby,
So
you can drive my car. Okay, I passed. Have a good one.
Thank you, Chris.
I just wanted to say hi to everybody. And I've been coming I've been familiar with Maureen for a few years, but been coming to SpeakEasy meetings for about a month now, more and more each week. And I'm loving it. And I have seen a lot of transformation very quickly. This is what I've been hungry for. and this kind of community and this kind of sharing of ACM ideas in an open, warm, supportive, loving community. And I've been, how do I say this? I'm not going to worry about how I say it. You have all inspired me to offer something to you all and the world, and to open myself to be used as a instrument in a way that I have longed to do and felt I was being called to do for 25 years. And this coming week, I'm going to be sharing sacred dance movement, mindful meditation dance movement, something like that, for the first time. And this is something I've collected music for, and classes, ideas my whole life. And it's going to be extremely, extremely simple to start with, but I expect it will build. And I have you guys, and especially the last call and the young woman who shared a few moments ago, who is a dancer. She was very inspiring to me as well. And I really appreciate her shares and her story. And I've been laying flat for most of 15 years in extreme pain, and imagining that I was too old to do this, and I was too sick to do this. And I'm doing it anyway. And
Thanks, Chris.
what?
That's wonderful.
And
'Cause you're
She's
gonna-
doing it Thursday, just saying. It's
Oh, you
already,
are doing it?
she's doing
Oh.
it. Yeah.
The
We're having,
web is already
It's a done
weak.
deal.
it's happening.
Yeah.
Well, I will be there
Yeah.
shaking my groove thing for that music. Thanks, Chris. Oh my God, I can't believe it's already happening.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Nate Stone, how are you doing?
Hi, how are you, Maureen?
Always good to see your face and hear your music. Always feeds our soul.
Good to see you too. It's been a really lovely service, actually. I think I needed this myself today, so I'm quite grateful to have just got to be present. I am really interested as well for that, like, checking in with yourself around the law love thing. I definitely get a bit of reflection for that now. I will be sitting with myself around that and exploring that a little bit. So
Yeah.
thank you.
My mouth always says just what my ears need to hear. If I take my own advice, I'd be so good.
We can't all be perfect though, Maureen. It's not fair on the rest of the world. That's what I'm always saying. It's not fair on anybody else,
I'm playing my part of imperfection over here. Yeah, it's perfectly imperfect. Well, we got you back up for a song. Looking forward to it.
Okay, thanks very much. So I've been asked to do a few of these over the next couple of months, which is really nice. I actually, talking about opportunities, I suppose, I kind of, I nearly said no, and then I was like, no, actually, it's good for me because it'll kind of push me to maybe do a little bit more practice as well, because I'm not great at sitting with my music much these days. So I'm going to try a cover. I'm really feeling the song since this morning, so you might have to bear with me, but it's a Gillian Welsh song, Everything is Free Now. So thanks again for having me on, and I look forward to the next one. So. Everything is free now, that's what they say. Everything I ever done, gonna give it away. Someone hit the big score, they figured it out. They're gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. I could get a tip jar, gas up the car, and try to make a little change down at the bar. Or I could get a straight job, I've done it before. And never minded working hard, it's who I'm working for. Everything is free now, that's what they say. Everything I ever done, go and give it away. Someone hit the big score, figured it out. I'm gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. Every time I wake up, humming a song, don't need to run around, I just stay at home and sing a little love song and love for myself. It's something that you wanna hear, you better sing it yourself. Everything is free now, that's what they say. Everything I ever done, gonna give it away. Someone hit the big score, they figured it out. Gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. Oh, oh, everything is free now, that's what they say. Everything I ever done, gonna give it away. Someone hit the big score, they figured it out. Gonna do it anyway, even if it doesn't pay. Oh,
I'm blown away. You have a stunning voice, and we want more, more, more. Please come back again. I don't know if you're reading the comments, but it's like soul food.
And your cat is so cute too.
No, she snuck up behind me. She nearly put me off. That's Sally.
So great.
Well,